Welcome, YouTubers and Facebookers and Twitterers. I'm going to go live on TikTok momentarily. And then de-orange my face because TikTok always makes me orange. Enhance filters. There we go. Now I'm normal on TikTok. All right. Oop, get my glasses. I can see the first. Raherty, you're the first TikToker. Welcome. Christopher, everybody else too. Garrett. Woo! Well, welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good weekend. Say where you're all from if you would, or if you feel like it. I think it's always nice to have folks do a little introduction. And also it gives us a minute for folks to be able to join because it takes a minute for people to kind of get online from TikTok and elsewhere. I'm going to lower the lights a little bit because they're giving me a headache. Ooh. It's nice. I've got this little ring light set up that does help to fill in the light. Because, for example, I'll show you right now. If I turn the light off completely, half my face is dark because I'm getting light from here. If I go really bright, it's great, but I'm going to be blind by the end of the show. So I do a little bit of fill in so it's not terrible and isn't enough to give me a migraine. So anyway, folks, welcome. Say where you're from if you would. We like to take the first couple of minutes just to give folks a chance to come in because obviously it takes people a little bit, whether TikTok or YouTube or wherever, to see the notice and come in. So give us a moment. But yeah, say where you're from. Always fun to see. Hamburg. Of course, Strong Life. Love seeing you. NYC, where I used to live for a couple of years. Canada. Toronto, I've not been to. I need to go to. And Montreal. Although I saw a comedian the other day say Montreal was Cleveland in French, which I'm sure is unfair to Montreal. Although I've not been to Cleveland. Cleveland might be a lovely city anyway, but I thought it was funny. Denmark, Scotland, Ukraine, Ivan. Woo! Lovely. Can you say where you're from in Ukraine, Ivan? If not, it's okay. I'm just kind of curious. Or Ivan, depending how you guys say it. Oh, no. Sorry, Lori. Ugh. Hopefully you're not getting it badly. Lori's got coronavirus. Sweden. Friend of mine got COVID actually the other day. Finland. Lovely. And doing fine. I mean, he was doing okay. He had a sore throat for about a week, made him very tired, but otherwise he was good. So of course, vaccinated, everything else. England, Puerto Rico, London. Oh, is DC getting worse again with coronavirus? I wasn't sure. All right, guys, we'll give maybe another half minute or so of folks just introducing yourselves. We'd like to take the first couple of minutes just to let folks kind of pour in. It takes a second, especially the TikTokers. By waiting, we usually go up from like 500 to maybe a couple thousand by just waiting a minute. So, see, we're at 2,000. Okay, we'll go another 30 seconds and then we'll jump right in. I don't know if the Russian embassy in Ireland has secured a diesel supply yet. Yes, that was a wild story. That the Russian embassy in Ireland can't get heat because the Irish companies are refusing to give them heat. Oh, geez. Okay, one sec. Usually before I start the show, I give my dog water so she doesn't interrupt me during the show, and she's looking at me. I forgot my mission. So keep introducing yourself, guys. Oh, I'll keep telling you about Ireland. So the Russian embassy in Ireland was complaining because all the Irish companies are refusing to give them fuel to heat the embassy and to heat their water. So now the embassy's cold. And my favorite complaint from them, though, was that they don't have hot water. And I'm like, really? Really? People in Mariupol haven't had food for 6 weeks, haven't had water for 6 weeks, and you're complaining that your water isn't hot enough, Russia. Okay. Talk about first world problems. Except this is like a first world, second world problem, but nonetheless. All right, guys, welcome. I am John Aravosis. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday. As always, I'm going to summarize the news first, and then we'll do question and answer that goes 45 minutes or so of that. But the news summary, maybe 20 minutes of news summary, we'll see. As always, please feel free to follow me on whatever medium you are on. I would appreciate it. As far as the questions, I did call my mom, don't worry. My mom has a habit of calling in the middle of the show, and then it makes TikTok freeze. She's done it twice this week. She did it again yesterday. So if you freeze, it might be mom. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so for your questions, I will do the introduction first or the news summary first. For TikTok, put your questions in the question function. Cindy, thank you for that, for the roses. Put your question in the question box. I don't know where it is. On my end, it says interact. Maybe yours says the same. And if you could put a question on there, that would be great. I will get to them once we're in that part of the show. On YouTube, obviously, you can just enter the questions in the box at the bottom. And as always on YouTube, if you do a super chat question, which you've got to pay for, I guess, I will get to your questions first. Excuse me, my allergies are kicking in. And I will get to your question as the next question I see. In any case, I'll get to it almost immediately as a thank you for that. And as always, if I miss any of the questions, moderators, please let me know. It happens. So let's jump right in. Top story, Russian troops shortages. So this is interesting. Thank you for that. And of course, I always like all the little gifts. I hate that you can see all your little gray hair sticking up when you're doing these shows. As always, thanks for all the gifts on TikTok. All right, I'll stop messing with my hair. For all the gifts on TikTok, I appreciate those. Russian troop shortages. So Russia is preparing for this big battle in eastern Ukraine, right? We know that the war started, and initially Russia really wanted Kyiv, the capital. They thought they were going to be able to get it in 3 days. It's now been day 46 today of the war, which I can't believe it's been 46 days. That's almost 7 weeks. I mean, it's crazy. And Russia obviously couldn't get the capital. They were doing so badly. The Ukrainians had so destroyed their troops, destroyed the morale, destroyed their vehicles, that the Russians totally withdrew from northern Ukraine. And now they're regrouping and trying to steal eastern Ukraine to take it and basically annex it as part of Russia. So both sides are moving their troops there. They're trying to move their supplies there. There's a huge supply convoy, 12 kilometers long, which is 6 or 7 miles long, that the Russians are moving from Russia past Kharkiv, the second largest city in the northeast of Ukraine, 1.5 million. And the Russians are moving this convoy down so they're heading towards the town of Izium, I believe it's pronounced, which will be a strategic point for them to try to take if they want to control the region, control the roads, everything else. So interestingly, the Russians are having troop shortages, which is no surprise. Any of the military experts we've been talking to, or you've been seeing on TV, have been talking about how the Russians are pressed really hard, how the Ukrainians did, an amazing job destroying the military, injuring, killing Russians, etc. But they've been destroying the Russian military, and that now the Russians are having to call up people who have already retired from the military. So in other words, people in the last 10 years who finished their military service and retired or whatever, or resigned or whatever it is. But mind you, a lot of these people, it's because they had to do their compulsory military service. The Russians are forcing them to come back, which is wild. So that's a sign of how bad the troop shortages are. I saw some trolls in my my TikTok comments saying, it's so funny. You can always tell who they are because it's the same argument. They use the same talking points. And this talking point is, Russia has 1 million people in their army. I don't believe this story's true. They've got more than enough men. It sounds like a good argument, but what happens is Russia's got 11 time zones, right? I mean, think about that. In America, we've got 3 time zones on the main continent, and then you add 2 more off land. But on the main American continent, we've got 3 time zones. Russia has 11. I mean, insane, right? So imagine how big that country is. It's huge. You need a lot of troops to fill that country and protect all the corners of it. So they can't afford to move all their troops from the rest of the country to Ukraine. In other words, because literally the rest of the country would be undefended. Who would defend them from the United States? I mean, we're not going to attack, but they don't know that, right? Who's going to defend them from China? They're allies, but they still got to be careful. The Japanese want their land back in the north, the Kuril Islands. You got to keep troops around the country. So that's why they're having a shortage, is they've moved all the troops they can, really, just about, to Ukraine, and they just don't have any more. So anyway, they're continuing their strikes against civilian targets. They hit 2 residential buildings and a school in Severodonetsk in the east, basically that whole eastern region that Russia's focusing the war on now that they want to annex. There were multiple strikes against the airport in Dnipro. They're just continuing going after civilian targets. And what this says to me is, that's my Midwesterner talking, and it says that, first of all, the Russians are continuing their terror campaign. One of the big things they do is they attack civilians to scare people, to freak people out, to freak the people out nationwide, and to freak the government out. And part of the idea is that they're trying to get people not to fight back, right? I mean, if you break the will, you don't fight back. So that's one thing they're doing. The other thing is, the other thing is they're intentionally hitting the infrastructure. What I am suspicious of, one thing to keep an eye on, is to what degree Russia starts hitting more train stations, more railway lines themselves, highways. In other words, the things that Ukraine uses to get around the country. If Russia starts hitting a lot of roads and railroads and things like that, it means they're no longer planning on going after Kyiv again, probably. That pretty much they're planning on sticking with that region in the east. And in the east, I made bread a couple days ago in the east, the region of the east, and that's why they're basically blowing up. Because think about it: if they take over the east and then decide to go after Kyiv again, they need all those roads and railroads to get their people there, but also to continue their supplies. If they're blowing it up, it means they're probably going to stick to the east. So just keep an eye on that. Follow up from Boris Johnson. So Boris Johnson, the British Prime Minister, did a secret visit to Ukraine yesterday. Again, the Russian trolls on TikTok were very upset. It's not secret. We've seen photos. Well, it's secret because you didn't know he was coming. So that's why it was secret. Once it was announced, we saw the photos. But anyway, Johnson announced that Britain would be supplying Ukrainian forces with missiles that can target aircraft, tanks, and even ships. And the analysts are saying the anti-ship missiles would be a notable addition to Ukrainian forces, which have struggled against Russian ships operating off Ukraine's coast. Specifically, they're talking about ships that have been, attacking a number of places, including Odessa, but I believe also Mariupol and some of the other cities have been attacked from sea, but certainly Odessa. They're using the missiles in the ships there. So this is an interesting, I don't want to use the word escalation, an interesting development from the UK that we're now giving them weapons that they can use against ships too. That's great news. And this, I was telling you yesterday, remember, I said that if you're seeing a high-level meeting between somebody like the British Prime Minister and the Ukrainian president, typically you'd have something planned already for that meeting, something big to announce to show, how much Britain is helping, right? And yes, the TikTok trolls are bad today. So any mods who want to jump over there, please feel free. They got. I made the Russians very. Thank you, TikTok. I made the Russians very mad yesterday. You see, I posted a story about food shortages in Russia, and the trolls got very, very, very upset. And they flooded the comments as they do, but they really, you're going to see, if you look, you'll see on TikTok, the video's got like almost 500,000 views. That's because the Russians went crazy. Oh, it's mom again. I'm going to kill her. Oh my God. All right. I'm ending and coming back TikTok. I cannot believe she did it again. Oh my God. She's got a sixth sense. Oh my God. I am absolutely going to die. Hold on. I'm trying to get my image cleared up on TikTok. I cannot believe she did it again. Unbelievable. It was my mother again. Oh God. Mom hates TikTok. Mom's a Russian troll. Oh God. TikTokers, welcome back. My mother did it again. This is the third time in a row. I can't believe she keeps doing this. Oh God. Oh my God, I'm howling. Oh my God. You got kicked because my mother kicked all of you off again. I'm going to have to call her before the show and tell her. Oh my God, I'm laughing. This is the third time she's done this in like 3 shows, I think. Oh my God, my mother. I called her yesterday. Sorry, guys. Yes, if folks want to keep mentioning in the comments on TikTok that it was my mother that got you kicked off, my mother called because this is kind of funny. I hate this too because we had like 2,000 TikTokers and now we're down to 500 again. Hopefully more are coming. But I set my iPhone to do not disturb. But mom being mom has a place of honor in my phone so mom can get through because mom's 92 years old. And I don't want mom to not be able to get a hold of me. So, even if I'm asleep in the middle of the night, mom can get through. But it also means mom can get through in the middle of my live. So sorry, TikTok. Yeah, see, we lost like 1,400 people. Hopefully they're coming back. It wasn't the Russians, unless mom's a paid Russian troll, which is entirely possible. I wouldn't put it beyond her. In any case, no, I was just talking about the Russian trolls getting very mad at me yesterday because I did a video about food prices in Russia. And it was interesting. And I always tell people this, like, it's funny. I think in the comments here, you can kind of tell who the Russian trolls are, right? I mean, well, first of all, they used to post Russian flags until I banned Russian flags. Oops, they can't do that anymore. But in the comments of my videos I put up, it's kind of interesting because I've been doing this since 1995, managing online communities. So I've gotten pretty good at spotting Russian trolls and trolls overall. Thank you for the origami on TikTok. And just things to keep out for. And I don't want to give them too much advice because then they're going to find ways around it. But I think it's interesting for your overall TikTok and social media experience to understand how to spot people who are intentionally there to cause trouble. We call them trolls. When people say trolls, that's what they mean. They mean people who are there to disrupt and cause trouble online. They could be paid trolls. We know that the Russians, I mean, look at this. The Russians, since the 2016 American elections, have, an army of people online who go and disrupt. They pretend to be Americans. They pretend to be Indians, whatever it is, right? But just keep an eye on it. And whenever you're I won't go through the whole story, but whenever you're in the comments and you see somebody say something and you have the desire to respond and you want to say, like, are you crazy? How do you not know this? How do you not see what's going on? It's probably because they do see what's going on, but they're lying and they're doing it to you on purpose. Final point I'll make, they'll mention Obama, they'll mention Biden, they'll mention Trump. Like out of nowhere, they'll mention Trump. Well, they know because it'll get people who are pro-Trump mad. It'll get people who are anti-Trump mad. And my favorite, yesterday they started doing was Black Lives Matter. Sorry, folks, on TikTok. We got kicked off because my mom called. Third time she's done this in a week. But when mom calls, TikTok freezes. So sorry about that. But I'm just talking about sort of the Russian trolls and trolls overall on social media and just how, pay attention because a lot of the folks you're arguing with when people are being obnoxious, they're not real, especially on TikToks like mine that are focusing on the Ukraine, the war there, the invasion. You're not dealing with real people. You're dealing with they're fake. I mean, they're real people, but they're paid to be there and they're paid to cause trouble. And my final point I was going to make is Black Lives Matter. In the last day, all of a sudden, all the commenters are anti-Black Lives Matter and you should see Black Lives Matter. Again, once you see multiple times somebody saying this, it's a talking point. They're literally reading a talking point. And again, Black Lives Matter. What a great topic to bring up to hopefully get conservative Americans saying, yeah, we don't like them, supposedly, and liberal Americans going, oh my God. The point is the trolls overall, and not just my account, and I'll get back to the news here, but I'm saying this for the TikTokers and the YouTubers. When you see people online who are being problematic, especially on issues like the war, just be aware of it. Be aware that probably a lot of these guys are fake, and they're organized. So just, anyway, keep it in mind because I think it'll also help your sanity, which is kind of nice. Sanity is nice too. So back to the news. Russia and Ukraine agreed to 9 humanitarian corridors today by which civilians could leave certain cities. Russia violated 3 of them. They stopped the Red Cross from evacuating people, even though they promised they would. I guess we should be thankful that Russia didn't blow anybody up in those convoys because they've done that previously. They've established convoys and then killed people in the convoy, but nonetheless, they're still behaving badly. The Ukrainian ombudswoman, this is a really nasty story. The Ukrainian ombudswoman for human rights says that the Russians have taken between 120,000 and 130,000 Ukrainian children and taken them to Russia. And now they are doing legislation to fast track adoption so Russians can adopt all these kids as Ukrainians. Really scary news. Obviously, it's a story we'll have to verify some more. There was something I saw the other day, and I tried to find it in my TikTok videos because I did find it. I posted it, but the Russians were claiming that that they saved like 130,000 Ukrainian children or 150,000. And I saw that and I went, you saved them? What does that mean? To me, that sounds like the Russians are saying we stole the kids and took them, we took them away from Ukrainian Nazis. So pretty much, I think this is a true story because the Russians admitted this the other day. The other really scary news is the U.S. has, according to ABC News, which is one of our big news stations here, very credible in the U.S., the U.S. has confirmed that Russia has in fact moved mobile crematoriums, things to burn bodies and turn them into ash, crematoriums, to the war zone. We knew this already. They said, U.S. intelligence says that the Russians are in fact using these to cremate Russian soldiers, which is insane. Any civilized army takes their war dead home. You don't just, thank you for the hat. You don't just cremate your own soldiers and not bring them back for the family. That's really bad. I mean, imagine what that does for the morale of these families and how they feel about the war and the government. But also, They're cremating civilians. They're using it to clean up other Ukrainian cities that they occupy. Excuse me, other Ukrainian cities that they occupy, in order that we don't enter, like we did in Bucha last week, and see all the murder they've created. So very bad news on that front. Now, a couple stories in a row here. I had reported last night that Germany had reneged on a deal to provide 100 tanks to Ukraine. It's complicated. It's not that Germany 100% promised. That's true. I know a lot of the Germans were getting upset about that. It is true. The deal was going up to the chancellor, and the chancellor had to approve or disapprove. Well, pretty much, thank you for that, on TikTok. Pretty much he's disapproving. What is weird about it is, some people are saying that the Germans don't have a choice. They don't have enough tanks. They can't afford to give 100 tanks to Ukraine and defend themselves. Well, then why was this being discussed at all? Why was it a deal that was going all the way to the chancellor's office for him to agree or disagree if categorically Germany doesn't have enough tanks? If they don't have enough tanks, then you wouldn't present the deal to the chancellor. You would simply say, we literally don't have the tanks. They've got the tanks. They could have gotten rid of them. They could have given them to Ukraine. They decided not to. That is troublesome to me. And you're now seeing more noise out of Germany, pretty much where Germany says they're kind of given all the material they can give. They're not going to give any more. That's the latest out of Germany. They're just not going to give any more. That, again, putting that all together, I'm seeing too much noise that sounds like the Germans are going a little bit soft. On the other hand, France's finance minister says, their minister of finance, that they're ready to ban Russian oil, which is huge. I saw an interesting fact this morning that going after Russian oil is actually way more important than going after Russian gas, because the Russians earn 3 times the amount in oil than they do gas, natural gas. In other words, the Russians take in 3 times the amount of money. So if we really want to hurt the Russians, you go after oil, not gas. Also, they were saying that oil is actually easier to go after. I don't quite totally understand the energy industry, worldwide and why. But just it would be easier for European countries to give up Russian oil and find oil elsewhere, I guess, than natural gas, I think was pretty much what folks were saying. But yeah, anybody, like I said, anybody on YouTube who wants to go over and help on TikTok, we've got a lot of trolls today, if you would. So anyway, oil revenues would be hugely important, but we've seen a lot of pushback on that. Another weird thing, and for my Germans out there, let it not be said that I don't criticize my own government. The Biden administration, yet again, let me read this from the New York Times 3 hours ago. Jake Sullivan, President Biden's national security advisor, downplayed the importance of whether Russian atrocities in Ukraine should be labeled genocide. More important than the label, Mr. Sullivan said on CNN's State of the Union, is the fact that these acts are cruel and criminal and wrong and evil and need to be responded to decisively. Except that if you're afraid to call them genocide, then per se you're downplaying it, and per se you're hedging, and per se you're saying, well, maybe it's not, maybe things aren't as bad as some of the other people are saying. You're downplaying it, and it's not good. It's not good. So I think from the beginning we've had a little bit of downplaying going on for the American side, and I'm not happy about it. Like I said, for the TikTok, for the YouTube folks, if you guys, any of you mods could move over to TikTok, it would be very helpful. They're having real problems there today. Sorry about that, TikTokers. Mitsubishi has stopped car production and sales in Russia. Even more importantly, there was a little tidbit in the story that said they're no longer supplying parts to Russia. That's important because it means any cars of Mitsubishi that are already there and breaking down can't get fixed. So that, again, we did this with planes too, where Boeing and Airbus at the beginning of the war stopped supplying spare parts for airplanes to the Russians. Very important because it means the Russians can't fix their fleet of planes. So eventually Aeroflot, their entire internal aircraft industry, domestic, starts to go downhill. And they just can't use the planes. Also interesting little news this morning. Gordon Brown, the former British Prime Minister, was on, I don't remember, it was probably on Fareed Zakaria's show on CNN. I think it was. And he was saying that a special process should be, for war crimes, that a special process should be set up in The Hague, working alongside the International Criminal Court. Usually you have the International Criminal Court investigating war crimes, a special process, kind of like the Nuremberg trials, basically like what they did for the Nazis, setting up sort of a special court and everything. It should be, the first charge against Putin should be one of aggression. Apparently, that was the first charge leveled against the Germans. I'm not going to use the word because I don't want like the magical editors out there on TikTok or YouTube to freak. The Germans in World War II, we know who they. Thank you, TikTok, for that. We know who they were. That group of people. The first thing they were charged with was aggression. So before you can prove the war crimes and the deaths and everything else, aggression, because that is clear that Russia aggressed against Ukraine without provocation. So that's important. The point that Gordon Brown made was it shows strength. It makes it easier to negotiate with Putin, not harder. He thinks every time we pull punches, and I would say this whole thing about genocide and the White House being afraid to use the word genocide, every time we sort of pull punches and pull back a little bit, it emboldens Putin. He responds. If someone comes after him strong, he gets worried and he's more careful. If somebody shows weakness, if somebody wants to negotiate, then he pounces. So just keep that in mind. Now, this one made me laugh. Where's the oh, this is the last story. Okay. Oh, I did go pretty fast today. So this is the last story. This one made me laugh. I have a visual to show you for this one. But Russian influencers, in other words, very rich Russians on social media, are very upset because Chanel, the very hoity-toity handbag company, first of all, pulled out of Russia along with all the other groups. They closed their stores. They stopped selling. Second of all, they now have a policy around the world where when maybe anybody or at least a Russian citizen buys their bags, you have to declare that you will not be taking it back to Russia because very simply, they don't want people to get around the sanctions by buying them elsewhere. It's illegal to buy it with the intent to take it back to Russia, right? So that's pretty good. Now, what Chanel did, therefore, so the Russians got very upset about this, and they're angry that the Russians are being discriminated. It's Russophobia, they're saying. Well, so what are they doing? They're taking their Chanel handbags and they're cutting them up on social media protests as a protest of Chanel. But I have to show you this. I mean, this is the one woman. She's apparently a TV presenter. Yeah, you can see it on both of these. And look, see, that's her little Chanel handbag that she's cut in two on the bottom. And I'm laughing because first of all, look at this woman in her little mini skirt looking like $1,000. She's got a Chanel handbag. Now, I don't know, maybe some of you out there know even better than me, but I Googled. Those handbags go anywhere from $300 to $500 to $15,000. Let's go on the cheap end and say they've got $500 handbags. You know what else costs $500 in Russia? The average monthly salary. People make $500 a month on average. And this woman's out here with her $500 to $15,000 handbag. And it's just, the privilege and the elitism involved from somebody like that. And also, I just don't believe it. I don't believe that some rich hoity-toity Russian who gets to travel the world while everybody at home starves is cutting up her Chanel handbag that she paid $1,000 or $2,000 for. There's literally no way. But it just made me chuckle because I was like, give me a break. Oh, the final point is, so President Zelensky of Ukraine is going to be on 60 Minutes tonight. So make sure it'll be after the golf tournament. So 60 Minutes will be starting late. For anybody else around the world, 60 Minutes is kind of the premier American investigative show going back, oh my God, 50 years now probably. And they do very good, earnest, objective investigations, interviews and things. And they're interviewing Zelensky. So my suspicion is for anybody abroad, you'll probably see clips online. They may even put the whole thing on YouTube. So I will be curious because they're solid. They're a very solid news show. So it should be a little more than just, oh, funny. Oh, I'm sorry. So quick little aside. So Lindsay Vanderberg says, I wish I could get a Chanel for $500 to $1,000. The minimum is $3,000. Oh my God. See, that's my point. These women are chopping up, but mind you, they're chopping up $3,000 handbags to show how mean the world is to Russia and how oppressed they are. You're not oppressed if you've got a $3,000 handbag. And in a country like Russia, where people make $6,000 a year on average, $500 a month on average, and you've got a $3,000 handbag, you're showing, oh my God. I mean, pretty much you're showing, you know what you're showing. You're showing that there's a little bit of suspicion as to where you got that money and what your family's been doing that you've got that kind of money. So anyway, crazy stuff. All right, guys. So let's jump to the Q&A. I can start with a TikTok question. And as always, I will then go to the YouTube questions. If you buy a YouTube question with the super chat, I will go to that first, of course, because there's so many questions that I can't get to all of them. So, well, okay, I'm going to guess here's what you mean. So Mr. Electrical Spark asks on TikTok, odds of Russia getting their stuff together. Now, what he means, I'm going to guess this is what he means, is of Russia getting its act together militarily. I'm assuming that's what you mean, actually. Well, it could be two things. One is Russia getting its act together and finally becoming a civilized country, and not doing the kind of crazy stuff that they've been doing lately, right? Or not even lately, over the years. The second is getting their act together militarily. There's two schools of thought on that, and I've seen both. One is, I was reading again this morning, people who are concerned that Russia is going to be training new forces. Some of those new forces might be ready by June or a couple months later. This is April, so that's 2 months from now. And that once they are, the Russians are biding their time, they're digging in, they're staying safe, waiting for the new reinforcements to be trained, for the new weapons to arrive, and then they're going to have a massive push against the Ukrainians, and they might do really well. That's the first concern. The argument on the other side I'm also seeing is that the Russians have done such a good job. Oh, and Carrie, thank you for that. If you had a question, feel free to put it. But either way, thank you, Carrie. The Carrie Brass guy. The alternative is people saying that Russia has proven over and over again that their military isn't what we thought it was. And if Russia had the ability to rally the troops, they would have already rallied them. They wouldn't have lost in Kyiv in the north, right? They wouldn't have been so shamed and so destroyed. So, the question is, can Russia get its act together now when they couldn't for the first 46 days of the war? They did Putin appointed this general to take over the entire war. He's a veteran of Syria, so he's quite familiar with using chemical weapons and brutality, intentionally targeting civilians. I mean, the Russians do this anyway, but this guy really knows how to do that. So, it's hold on. Oh, we have a troll. Okay. Bye, Teresa. See you later. We had a troll on TikTok. On YouTube. We never get trolls on YouTube. They're always on TikTok. We're diversifying. Woo-woo. You're getting big when you diversify your trolls. So, in any case, guys, so that's kind of the issue is there's a lot of debate between the experts as to whether Russia is going to come roaring back in a couple months or whether Russia has so proven that it can't get its act together. It can't get its supply lines, its logistics together. Its troops are so green. You've got these conscripts, these people who are just drafted for a year to do their military service. They don't want to fight in a war. They thought they were going to be, appointed defending some military base in the middle of nowhere where there's no war. They didn't think they were going to Ukraine to get blown up. So that's thank you for that, Brendo. That's what's going on. So, I don't know which is true. I was sort of forced to pick the other day. Somebody made me pick. And I guess I feel like the Russians have shown us who they are. They've shown us how well their military works, and it doesn't work very well. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to turn things around in a couple months. Let's hope they don't. But final point here is let's see if NATO is able to, and the West in general, or I should say the world in general, is able to get Ukraine the weapons it needs to defend itself and to push the offensive against Russia. Ukraine's saying they're not getting enough. That's entirely possible. Oop, yours was, did anything freeze again or no? So I see mine was frozen too. Mina, we good? Oh, we do. Okay. That's okay. You know what I've been doing too, by the way, for the trolls on TikTok? I block them, but if you can still see their account, give them a timeout after you block them because then it stops them a little more. I don't know why. Carrie Brass guy's question. Oh, he did have a question. Okay, I thought so. I was suspicious of that. Let me go back. Oh, here we go. I got your question, Carrie. Don't worry. I thought so. When I saw that you donated and did ask a question, I got suspicious. So the Carrie Brass guy asks on YouTube, why haven't the Allies started Berlin-style airlift from Mariupol? Well, I can tell you why the Allies haven't. Because we don't want to go to war with Russia because it'll be World War III, right? The same reason we don't want to provide them planes, the same reason that Biden, and again, I criticize Biden for this, the same reason that Biden keeps saying, keep checking out the TikTok things. That way they are being obnoxious today, aren't they? The little trolls. Oh, well. Again, I apologize, TikTokers. The trolls are upset because I posted a post yesterday that really, really, really embarrassed the Russians, and they went ballistic. So that's probably why they're sending extras today. They called in the military reservists to go crazy. But yeah, I mean, the reason we don't have a military style airlift of anything of aid into Mariupol is NATO is afraid that if the Russians shoot down one of our planes, we'll be entering the war. And Biden has said repeatedly, and I think he's wrong for saying this, that if we enter the war against Russia, it'll be World War III, meaning the end of the world. And from my perspective, that means, thank you for the butterflies. We could use them when talking about World War III. What that means is Putin can pretty much get away with anything because we've already told him we're afraid of World War III, that we're afraid of the end of the world if we engage with him directly. So we're not going to engage with him directly. But that is why they're not doing an airlift, because they're scared to death of this becoming a battle against Putin, So, oh, well, Matthew, I mean, yeah, Matthew's weighing in about my post. Oh, thank you for the lights on TikTok and the hearts. I can't always thank everything. So I thank you guys. I try to do sort of the big stuff because the little ones come up so quickly, but I do appreciate, I always tell folks, by the way, just so you know, I've got my YouTube comments right in front of me here, and I've got my TikTok comments right there. So at least I can see you all. There's a lot flying by, so it's hard to read everything, but I can see that dog. So thank you. I can always see the big images that pop up at the very least. And usually I catch the questions on YouTube. Now, having said that, Bev Winiski is back, and I had missed one of her questions on Friday and promised her we would get to it today, and Bev posted it. Thank you, Bev. And thank you for that on TikTok. Bev says, her Friday was, do you have any thoughts on Russia waiting to do something big on Ukraine, Easter on the 24th? Oh, I answered that one. Oh, you know what? I don't know if you were there at that point. I answered that because I had said it's not, I was describing about how Ukrainian Easter is the same as Russian Easter is the same as my Easter, Greek Easter. We're all Eastern Orthodox, and our Easters are all at the same time. Thank you for the disco ball. And this year, it's a week after the Catholic Easter. So for Catholics and the rest of you, your Holy Week is starting today. For Greeks and Eastern Orthodox in general, our Holy Week starts next Sunday. So next Sunday is Palm Sunday for us. Today is Palm Sunday for you. So in any case, so the question was whether Russia was going to do anything on Ukrainian Easter. The thing is, it's Russian Easter too. And even though the Russians have shown that they're really willing to kill civilians and do anything, I wonder if the Russians aren't going to, thank you, TikTok, whether the Russians aren't going to try to find a way to just, I don't know whether it would be a ceasefire, whether they just simply wouldn't do as bad of war crimes. They sort of say, hey, stop the obvious war crimes for today. But people back home are very religious, and I just think, the Russians might watch it. So I'm not sure they would do anything especially bad on Ukrainian Easter. I think that would be really stupid of them. And frankly, even doing it, I saw that hat. Thank you, TikTok. Even doing it next week on the Catholic Easter, shall we say, I think would be dumb too, because it's a day that Christians are getting together to, sort of solemn and everything else, and seeing a big war crime would not go over well. So yes, but I thought I did. I did answer that, but you may have been gone at that point, or somebody else asked the same question. I see clear lines being drawn between authoritarian and democratic countries. What do you see as this progress? Oh God, that's a whole other issue. That's a much bigger issue. We had the elections last week in Hungary, where Viktor Orban, the authoritarian prime minister, won again, which is very bad. Thank you for the owl, Brenda. We have the election in France today, where Marine Le Pen, who's the far-right candidate, formerly maybe still very racist party, the National Front, at least that's what they used to be called, that she's representing. Her father founded it, and he was just an avowed lunatic, racist, right-winger. But you are seeing, in America, we're seeing it too. You're seeing this sort of authoritarian intolerance, anti-democracy intolerance growing. And, I don't know. I'm not sure what to tell you. It's growing. And it's something that it's not just Russia, it's something we've got to watch here at home. And again, it doesn't even matter. My YouTube is John Aravosis DC. So you can see my name up there, John with an H, John Aravosis DC, as in District of Columbia. It's something to keep an eye on. And I say this, regardless of your politics, just keep an eye on this stuff, because it doesn't really matter if you support Trump or Biden or who you support. thank you for the hat. You shouldn't be anti-democracy. You know, you shouldn't be pro-violence. You shouldn't think that we, that we should suspend our civil liberties. And I mean, there are certain basic things, and we frankly shouldn't be defending people like Russia. I mean, there are certain basic things that the left and the right, should agree on, whether it's in the US or whether it's abroad. And one of them should be, frankly, basic things like the war, which is why I'm glad that so many of us have been able to come together, at least on the issue of the war, because it really has crossed, other than the real, and by the way, it's been fringes on both sides. You've got the really fringe right, and I would say Tucker Carlson on Fox News represents that, Fox News in America, where clearly something's going on with him. There's something going on with him. Glenn Greenwald is with him, and I still would kind of put Glenn on far right now. But Glenn might also be the far left. You've got the far left. A lot of them are actually communists too. It's kind of funny. There's this whole cohort. Thank you for the lights on TikTok. There's this whole cohort on Twitter, especially, that they're these like young communists, and it's the weirdest thing. And a lot of them are British, which is also really weird. But they're proud of being communists, and they want to bring down the capitalist world, and blah 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 blah. And they're super pro-Russia, which is weird too, because Russia's no longer communist. But so you got these fringes on both sides that are pro-Russia, but in general, we ought to be coming together on this. Now I'm bringing up Ivan's question, or Ivan, because Ivan said he's from Ukraine, so I wanted to bring it up. Do you think sanctions really work? Look at the ruble. It is right now like it was before, 24.02 to the dollar, and they get almost $1 billion per day from oil and gas. Well, okay, that's a few questions in terms of sanctions. So a couple things. One, the ruble. Yes, right after the sanctions were announced, or some of the, maybe it was the banking sanctions, I don't know, the Russian ruble plummeted against the dollar, meaning the Russian ruble wasn't worth as much. For Russians to buy products from abroad, it cost them a lot more. Okay, that's what happens when the ruble plummets. And what does that do, by the way? Let's say you're importing olive oil from Greece. If the ruble plummets, rather than your ruble being able to buy, I mean, I'm making this up, but maybe your ruble, Brenda, thank you again. You're being very generous today, Brenda. I appreciate it. Rather than your ruble being able to buy one bottle of olive oil, your ruble has gone down. So now it can only buy a quarter of a bottle of olive oil, like a quarter of a liter instead of a liter. That's what happens when the ruble goes down. Well, the ruble has rebounded and is now pretty much back to where it was before, in large part because the Russian government has been doing a lot of policies to support it. Well, so that's the first thing. So it certainly undermines the sanctions in that prices won't be as high in Russia, and you want prices to go up, you want inflation to go up, to basically punish the country at large and make people turn against their government. So that's the first thing. So you're not wrong about that. It still is stopping a lot of supplies of getting to Russia. We know that. I mentioned earlier that airplane supply parts, Boeing and Airbus, again, great. American company, European country, both of them, to their credit, cut off Russia. They cut off Russia from their repair manuals. They cut off Russia from their parts. So basically, Russia only had about 2 weeks of spare parts. Like after 2 weeks, this is 2 weeks into the war. We're already 7 weeks now. After 2 weeks into the war, Russia would have been out of spare parts for their airplane fleet, for their domestic airlines, their airlines that fly across country. It's 11 time zones. They would have been out of parts, and they would have to start grounding their airlines, their domestic airlines. So this has clearly caused them harm, and it's not something they can get around. So in that case, the sanctions work, right? The idea overall also is to take money out of the economy that the Russians would be using potentially for their military, right? So that's good too. Now, the thing you get to is, you are correct. The Russians are getting almost $1 billion a day, which is more or less €1 billion. I think the euro and the dollar are pretty close. It was like 0.9, whichever one. But the euro and the dollar are pretty close. So the Russians are getting about $1 billion or €1 billion a day in oil and gas sales to Europe, I believe. Well, maybe Europe and America, but America, we don't get very much. That's to Europe. And what people are saying is that's $30 billion a month. I mean, it's a crazy amount of money that we are sending to Russia from the West every day, and that we've got to, sorry, I'm like looking here now to see. People are being bad on TikTok. So I will see if I have to help out here soon. It's just a little harder to sort of jump in on TikTok. Well, you know what it is? When I'm doing both of you guys, because I try to read the comments on TikTok and the comments on there, it's a little harder to sort of read the details for every troll, but I will look and see what we can do. Thank you for Jessica for that. So in any case, yeah, I mean, the oil and gas, we've got to do something. I was saying earlier today that I was watching on the news that the Russians make 3 times the money from oil than they do from natural gas, and therefore that we ought to be focusing on the oil. But again, countries like Germany get a lot of their oil from Russia. I think it's 40%. I saw it today. I think Germany's 25% of their energy from gas, natural gas, and 40% from Russia from oil. I will admit it is difficult for them to cut that off at once. Germany has promised by the end of the year they're going to try to become independent from oil. I hope that's true. I get a little bit worried, but hopefully it's true. Now let me just see real quick. Daniel O'Neill had asked a super chat question. Daniel, thanks as always for being so generous. Any thoughts about reports that the Russia? I'm going to leave my glasses on so I can do a better job of seeing what's going on TikTok. I'll try to stop the crazies there. Well, I'm sorry, real quick. On TikTok, Best Dave just asked about the real questions getting through. You've got to submit your questions via the question feature. On my end, I see a button that says interact on the bottom, and I click that and I can read your questions. If you should be using it to submit your questions, because that way they won't fly by the screen and I'll miss them. So my next once we're done with the super chat questions, I will go and do more of your questions here, but that's the way to pull them up. Daniel asks, any thoughts about reports that the Russians failed? I saw those. Thank you on TikTok. Any thoughts about reports that the Russians failed because their spies embezzled the cash that was meant to be used to bribe Ukrainian officials to sabotage or defect or do nothing? That's interesting. You have a Q&A button. Okay, thank you, Tenna. I appreciate that. Yeah, so on Daniel, one sec. On TikTok, you've got a Q&A button. Click that and you'll be able to submit your question. And that way, you won't have to worry about your questions scrolling by. I can see them all in a row and I can pick them more casually. Apparently it says Q&A, like a question and answer. So Daniel, one thing, there's a couple stories going on here from what Daniel's asking. First of all, thank you for the dog. We had heard at the beginning of the war that the Russians had paid $5 billion with a B dollars to buy off the elites in Ukraine, so that once the Russians invaded, thank you, Jessica, for that. Once the Russians invaded, their 3-day invasion where they were going to take Kyiv, the capital. Once they invaded, the elites in Ukraine would rise up and demand Zelensky be overthrown and a new Russian overlord be picked as president and all of this, right? Well, the story at the time was that the elites just took the money and ran and didn't do it. They just didn't do it. What Daniel's asking is whether the elites didn't even get the money, whether the Russian spies who were supposed to give the money to the Ukrainians stole it. Interesting you say that, because one thing we do know is that a lot of the military money has been stolen. A lot of the money for the Russian military has been stolen over the years. And that's it's one of the main reasons, or one of the big reasons, that Russia isn't doing as well militarily. That a lot of their equipment, they're bad equipment. It hasn't been maintained. They bought cheap tires and on their vehicles, all this kind of stuff, right? So it would be interesting if the embezzlement went to also their spy networks. And I guess, thank you, Brenda. I guess why wouldn't it, right? I mean, so it's entirely possible. Yeah, it's entirely possible. Either way, the money didn't get there, which is very fun. I mean, sorry, it is funny that they spent billions. God, I wish I was one of them. Can you imagine getting paid $1 billion or something to help overthrow their government? You're like, sure, Moscow, pay me $1 billion, I'll help you. And then they give you the $1 billion, and you're like, transferring it to Bitcoin. See you later. Anyway, thank you for that, Laura. Thank you. I'm going to remind everybody now, if you meant to give me a question, make sure you highlight that, because sometimes I think you're just giving a donation and it's a question. Harvey, let me have a sip more coffee and then we'll jump in, Harvey. My allergies are kicking in today. You can tell Washington, D.C. is notorious for allergies. I didn't have them until I moved here, and I've developed them here because usually we get an early spring. It's a warm climate. It used to be a swamp, and we get sort of 6 months of flowers and trees and everything else. It's a much more... So my allergies are making me sound tougher today. Opinions on Ukrainian reporting that we are ready for large-scale direct military engagements against Russia. Are the Ukrainians becoming more confident with increased experience and aid from the West? I would think the Ukrainians are becoming more confident because they've been successful, right? Per se. The Russians are less confident. The Russians are demoralized because they've been losing so many battles, losing their material and losing their men. So you would think the same thing would happen on the other side. The Ukrainians are seeing victory after victory, and it's like, yeah, right? Now, there still is concern in the next few months about the Ukrainians being exhausted as well, because it is the cherry blossoms, because it's just exhausting fighting a war. So even if you're winning the war, you can only go on so many months without being replaced by somebody else. So that is true. Some of the Ukrainians beating their chest and saying, we're ready for large-scale direct military engagements could be bravado. They could be doing it again to freak out the Russians, to freak out the Russian troops, to freak out the Russians back home. Oh, those Ukrainians, they're crazy. Look at how strong they are. I did talk about the crematorium early, though. I can mention it again if I remember, but I talked about it earlier in the show. So, yeah, some of it's bravado. Some of it might be true. I feel like it's a mix of bravado and true, because we also know the Ukrainians have been really beating up the West, saying, we need a lot of weapons now. We needed them yesterday, and we need them in order to, thank you for that, we need them in order to be able to fight this war. And you're not giving it to us. And especially in the next month that the Russians are regrouping and digging in, it's the perfect time for the Ukrainians to really go on the offensive, going after an army that isn't ready to fight yet. Russia is not ready, again, because they need the reinforcements. Now is when you want to hit them. Now is when they need all that equipment from us. So I think you've got some bravado. So probably some psychological games going on there, and some truth is my guess. Boy, a lot of questions today coming in on YouTube. You guys surprise me, because sometimes the weekends are like dead, and other times it's crazy. I will say, somebody asked on YouTube how to donate. You can donate. The problem is YouTube won't let you pay for a question, and I wish they would, because it's not that you have to pay for questions, but I promise to pick those questions first, in part because I can see them. Like on YouTube, they're bright colors, and I go, oh, out of 100 questions, I see that one, right? You can certainly donate just to support my work by going to my profile. There's a tips box that you can click on and donate. You can also go to my profile, click the beacons link on TikTok, and go there. You'll see a fundraiser we're doing at the top for Ukraine. Help on that if you can. 100% of the money goes to Ukraine. But you can also see my links for Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, everything else below. If you want, feel free to support my work too. I am doing this full time. So Laura North asks, can someone help your mom connect on YouTube? I know, so she can watch you. See, the problem is, Mom has already asked this. So Laura bought the question, so I'm going to answer it. Mom, somebody showed Mom one of my videos the other day, and Mom was very proud. So Mom wants to know how she can get online and watch me all the time. And I am mortified by this fact, because I don't like my mother watching me online. It creeps me out. Even though this is an apolitical thing, so at least I don't get into that whole Republican-Democrat thing, it still creeps me out thinking Mom is watching. So, but again, I'm going to have to show her. I probably will show her on YouTube, because that's probably the easiest way. I can't show her on TikTok. God, I would never put my mother on TikTok. Can you imagine? At the mercy of TikTok. But yeah, I'll show her on YouTube so she can get it, even though that means I'll be working in the other room and I'll hear my voice coming from the kitchen. I'm like, oh God. Kendra with the fascinating name. Kendra Bartelmez Forster. I read Putin went from 67% to 81% approval after the invasion. Yes, I saw that too. A couple things. You are always going to have a big bump, usually, in support for a president at war. And we saw it here with George Bush during the first Iraq War. Bush's approval rating was terrible. The Iraq War starts. Bush's approval rating jumped to 91%. This is the war back in 1991. The approval jumps to 91%. But then after the war, it dropped back down into the 30s again, and he lost re-election. So you can get a massive bump wartime, but it doesn't mean it's going to stick. The second point, which is very interesting. Second point is, Russia's a dictatorship. They were always authoritarian. Now they're a dictatorship again. You can't trust Poles. You're living in dictatorial Russia now, where you're going to disappear probably for the rest of your life. If you answer the phone and tell a stranger, yes, I think Putin's an idiot, I don't support the war or Putin, you're not going to do that in Russia. The only way you're going to do that is if the government's paying you to do it for some propaganda reason. But no sane person is going public and saying, that they oppose the war in that way, because not sane person without being arrested, because they know they're going to get arrested. Most people don't want to get arrested as a statement, so they're not going to tell the truth. The final point is, jumping from 67 to 81% isn't that big a jump. It should have been much better, right? First of all, Putin at 67% is kind of low for a dictator. Dictators should be getting 90%. But jumping only to 81%, they're at war. this is the great war to stop the Nazis, according to Putin, he should be at 93%. I mean, George Bush was at 91%, I think. Why isn't he there? He's only at 81%. So if anything, those numbers aren't great either, I think. But again, it's from Russia. I just don't think we can trust poll numbers from Russia, especially, like I said, now that they're a dictatorship again for the time being. I just don't think it's possible. Sorry, scrolling down. Oh, okay. Did I miss any super chat questions? I'm not sure. Tell me if I did. I don't see any that I missed. Oh, the crazy trolls are back. The crazy trolls are back. The crazy trolls are back. I got rid of them. La, 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 la. Okay. TikTok. Let's grab some of your questions, TikTok. All right. Do I think somebody will try to kill Putin? Within Russia, maybe. Putin is notoriously paranoid, though. So remember, for example, how Putin, when he would meet President Macron in France, and he would have that really long, crazy, like 40-foot table that he was at. That was maybe. We'll talk about that in a second, Dan. That was because Putin is he's afraid. He's afraid. It's not just afraid of COVID. A lot of people think he's afraid of getting poisoned. Oh, I saw that. Thank you, Tyler, if that was you for the hat. He's afraid of being poisoned because that's what they do in Russia. I was reading that it's less likely to be the military. It's more likely to be one of our former top spies here in the U.S. said it's more likely to be the Russian intelligence services that take down Putin because they're the real defenders of the state and the country and all of that. And if they see that this war is not just a disaster, but is hurting Russia, Russia as the state of Russia, that it's making them look weak in the world, that it's making them more at risk of war. Thank you for that, Brenda. It's making them more at risk of war because other countries look and say, Russia, look how bad their military is. They can't fight. Maybe we should take on Russia, right? That they would potentially step in and take him out. So it's possible. It's possible. Except, again, it's a very tight dictatorship. Putin's former KGB. He knows how to protect himself. He's been there 20 years. So, like a lot of places, I mean, Saddam Hussein and everybody else, thank you, Jordy, it's hard to take these guys down. I don't think we're going to be the ones doing it because that would be very risky. You're literally talking about getting into a major war if we were to try to take Putin out. So that I do not see happening. Dan asks, can I do a Q&A with my mom when I'm in Chicago? Maybe. The only thing is I just get creeped out by all the bad people. So like sometimes I just don't like showing my family and stuff because I just think, other than my dog, I just don't like all the nasty Russian trolls and everything else. Mom would be fascinating because she's 92, Greek immigrant, so lots of interesting stories about she tells, it was funny. I was watching somebody the other day from, they were immigrants from, Italy. This wonderful woman. I forget her account. I follow her on TikTok, and her grandson does this account where she makes a dish for the day kind of thing. And it's very quick. He does a great job editing them too with nice Italian music. And she calls all the TikTokers her grandchildren. It's really my TikTok grandchildren. It's very cute. She's got like 600,000 followers. And it's actually, she makes very simple dishes, a little too much pepper in my opinion, but clearly where she's from in Italy, they like it hot. But it's interesting to watch because they're very simple dishes, but you go, that's kind of cool. In any case, it's neat because she was talking about coming to America from Southern Italy. And, they were in very small, poor villages, grew up poor and all of this. And she said the same thing my mom said. She says that mom says all she remembers coming to the U.S. when she was 8 years old. She immigrated in 1938, right before the war. And she says she remembers walking through New York City and looking up and thinking the buildings were going to fall down on her because it was so big. The Italian mom said the same thing about how she was she just says, I remember looking up at the buildings and how tall they were. The thing you've got to remember, like, these guys were from villages. The tallest building in my mom's village was 2 stories. That was it in Greece. They came, I am blown away when you look at photos. For example, that iconic photo from New York where you see all the guys on the beam and they're having their lunch or whatever, and they're all on that iron beam at the top of the skyscraper. That thing, I always want to think that things from the 1940s. It's before that, I think. Like a lot of these skyscrapers were built in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So you had some of these iconic, ridiculously tall buildings in New York that were there in the early 1900s. Imagine what that looked like to somebody immigrating from a village in Greece or Italy. To me, that's amazing to sort of think of the juxtaposition, the contrast between the two, So yeah, I have to think about it for Mom. Like I said, I get a little worried just about safety and all of that because just, too many creepy Russians on not in the world, but on TikTok. So, as always, let me know if I miss any of your guys' questions there. Let me go and find another question. Woody, this is always a good question. Woody asks on TikTok. My hair is exploding today. Asks on TikTok, how and when do you think the war will end? People keep asking that question, but it's a fair question, and it's one that I think changes every day almost. It certainly, the Russians are clearly building up for a long fight or for a big fight. We know this. We know, as I said at the beginning of the show, they're dragging up people who already left the military up to 10 years ago, right? And they're already dragging these people back in, which is scary. Scary for those people. They're not going to be very happy. Their families aren't going to be very happy. But also, it means the Russians are really pushing for some kind of big attack coming up. They want a lot more men. They want a lot more power. The question is whether they can pull it off and what it means. One thing that worries me is the Russians still have a lot of missiles. They could destroy Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, if they wanted to. They could. But Moon Mia, John doesn't have mods under 28. John doesn't know if he has mods under 28 years old, but maybe that's the case. I do not ask people their age when I was vetting them to be moderators, but perhaps it's true. In any case, yeah. So I feel like whatever it is, it's building over the next few months. It's not going away in 3 weeks. It's not going away when people were saying, for example, that Putin wants to end the war by May 9th because it's the victory celebration for the end of World War II. And I'm sure he would. That's not going to happen. So I don't know. I still have to keep hoping that Russia has already shown us who they are and how they fight. And of course they fight dirty. Of course they fight civilians, but they're not really good at fighting wars, it seems. Not recently. Not since World War II. And that was 70 years ago. So, catch up, guys. So I just have to keep hoping that the Ukrainians will stay one step afoot of them, 1 foot ahead of them. There we go. 1 step ahead and 1 foot ahead. Harvey asks, Harvey Kittle, opinions on expanding sanctions to include generals and ministers of state, not just oligarchs. Why not? Will this be effective and how will they do it? Why not? At this point, I get a little annoyed that we haven't just extended the sanctions to everybody on everything. Why is it that, I'll take that question off of TikTok just so it's not in the way for you guys. Why is it that we have any sanctions we already haven't put into place? As Ivan had mentioned, who's the Ukrainian who's joining us today on YouTube, are the sanctions really working? Well, they're not working in terms of changing Putin's mind, and we knew that. Biden and everybody said from the beginning, the sanctions are not going to stop him from doing the violence. So if you ask me, why are we holding back on any sanctions? Why don't we just do everything? Why don't we just do everything? Hit him with all the sanctions we can right now. Clearly, there's no reason to say, well, and we even said this, well, this week we did these sanctions because of the Bucha atrocities. Why? You're admitting that it's not going to influence Putin by doing these more sanctions. So it's not like you waited for Bucha to do the sanctions because now Putin learned his lesson. He's not going to do any more Bucha war crimes. Of course he will. So why hold off on doing the sanctions? Just hit him with everything. So I don't quite get it. But yeah, I would have, if you could, I would have hit the minister. I would have hit everybody you could in the Russian government, period. How do you do it? Yeah, that gets hard because you've literally got to, I don't know how sanctions literally play out in a electronic banking system, but I'm assuming each person has to be sort of entered in the system and blocked out and everything else. But why not? We should be hitting them with everything. Strong Life, who's from Germany. I'll just say that. Oh, the Fuhrer. I thought you meant the Fuhrer. I thought you were referring to somebody currently. I was like, oh God, who's the Fuhrer? You mean literally the H-man. I'm trying not to say these words because, again, I worry the automatic censors will kick in. But, the H-man in Germany during World War II was paranoid. He did auto-delete himself. Maybe Putin will follow that example. He did with invading, genocide. What would that take? Excuse me. Putin has to feel supremely threatened. Honestly, I still think there's more of a likelihood of somebody else taking Putin and basically saying, dude, you've destroyed the country, you're leaving. I mean, again, I'm still not convinced the military is going to do it, but man, if I were the military, I'd be so angry right now at what Putin has done. He has made the Russian military look like they're awful. They're a third world military. They're just, it's awful. I mean, they're a joke right now. And I'd be pretty ticked for Putin making us look that way. So, Christine Washington, are service age adult children of Russian oligarchs exempt from military service? I have no idea. My guess would be, yeah, it's Russia. I'm sure it doesn't take much to pay somebody to be exempt. I mean, there is no way that the oligarchs' kids are in the military unless they want to be, unless the father thinks they should be to show patriotism or some PR public relations thing. But I can't imagine in a million years in a country as corrupt as that you wouldn't just either you call in. First of all, you would just call your buddy. I mean, you're a billionaire. You call your buddy and say, get my son out of there. And he goes, okay. Or you call your buddy and go, here's $10,000, 2 years wages. Get my son out of there. And he goes, yes, sir. So yeah, no question on that. All right. Let me go back to tiki-taki questions. Boom. Tick-tock. Oh, that would be scary. So yes, can Russia's nukes be hacked? God, hope not. I don't know. I've never heard of that. Let's hope to God they can't be. Is Russia going to attack NATO? That's a good question from Holly, because it comes up a lot. I don't think so. I think Putin has done a very good job scaring the West into thinking he's going to attack us, right? Like, oh my God, anytime now. Thank you, Rusty, for that. If you had a question, feel free to post it. That, oh my God, anytime now, I'm going to attack you. Look out, Poland. Look out, Sweden. Look, Russia's losing the war anyway. Okay? At this point, they're losing. They got beaten by the Ukrainians around Kyiv. They had to pull out, lost a lot of men, lost a lot of equipment, demoralized their military. Why? I mean, and Putin is desperate to find replacements so that he's even pulling up former military people from the last 10 years, right? That he's making them come back when they don't want to come back. That's how stressed and stretched out his military is. Keeping that in mind, Putin's kind of freaking out, trying to figure out how to beat the Ukrainians. Why would he want to invite the US, Poland, Germany, France, Italy, the United Kingdom? Why would he want all of us to enter the war too? I mean, people have said for propaganda purposes he wants it because it's more popular at home, a war versus NATO. Yeah, I'm sure it is. But seriously? I mean, we would destroy him. Again, short of nuclear war, and if nuclear war happens, everybody's gone. So I don't think he's going to do a nuclear war either. Neither are we. But short of that, we're going to win if he gets us involved. I think we've made a really dumb analysis about the fact that we've got to be really careful Putin doesn't get mad and engage us in the war. Putin doesn't want us in the war. He's terrified of us getting in the war because I think that would be his end. They would lose so badly. I'm not worried about Russia attacking NATO companies. That would be just incredibly stupid. I mean, they've been pretty stupid to date with this, but that would be incredibly stupid. Barbara, Giesbrecht. I'm going to say it like a Frenchman trying to pronounce German. Giesbrecht. With the limited information they get, do the Russian civilians know that there are sanctions on their country and why? I think they know there are sanctions because it's in the government's interest to tell them. NATO, the West, right? The boogeyman is the West, right? The big bad is the West. The West is sanctioning you poor innocent Russians because the rest wants Nazis to take over and destroy Russia. That's one of the things. The West wants to destroy all of Russia. And now the price of food is going up because of those evil Nazis in the West who are coming after you. Well, it's a good argument to make people at home go, oh my God, protect us. So that's what's going on with that. They're not getting details on the war. They're not getting the real details. No, they don't know how many war dead. They don't know what the Russian troops are actually doing. They occasionally show things like I saw a clip about Russian news the other day. They showed Bucha. They talked about what happened, and they said the Ukrainians did it. And now the Ukrainian Nazis, after killing all of their own citizens, now they're blaming us. Look, doesn't that make them even bigger Nazis? It's this kind of stuff. So I promised I wasn't going to say the N word, the Nazi word, to get in trouble with the not my mods, but with the automatic mods. So yeah, they're not. I mean, overall, they're not getting the news. Of course not. Excuse me. Let me say this, and then we'll pull up Harvey's question. The only news they're getting in Russia is the news the government wants them to have. Other than young people who know ways of VPNs and ways of getting around the censors and getting their information. So young people probably know what's going on, but the adults have no idea what's going on. A little more coffee. Harvey, sorry, Mr. Question. It's commonplace for Russians to pay their way out of the military. Okay, there you go. Even middle class do this. Interesting. Sadly, it's only the poor who typically serve. I did not know that, but I guess why not, right? I mean, if the oligarchs, if the billionaires can pay, why wouldn't middle class people pay if they can afford it? And especially with Russia, I mean, my God, right now, can you imagine? I would never, well, not that I would join the Russian military anyway, but I would never want to. My God, right now it would be terrifying to join the Russian military. All you need to do is talk to a couple of your friends and find out what's happening on the field. The intercepted communications we're seeing where these guys are talking about their entire unit getting killed. So-and-so lost his arm, so-and-so lost his leg. I mean, I'd be like, you're nuts if you think you're sending me there. Dad, help me get the money. Excuse me, Adam McKnight. What are your thoughts on Russia trying to take the Suwalki Gap in the next month? Has there been gossip of that? So interesting. Adam asks a very informed question. And it's funny. This was a question that I asked a former European defense minister at a book party I was at right before the war started. And I had asked about that. Now, the Suwalki Gap, it's funny. I don't know that I knew the term, but I knew the area. Okay, if you look at a map, well, I'm not going to show you. It's always backwards on TikTok or YouTube. But if you look at a map, let's pretend you're looking at this the right way. You've got Poland, you've got Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. I know it's Lithuania first. I think that's the order. You got Poland here, and then you got like Belarus over here. Well, if you look, and then you got that sea that Sweden is on. You've got Sweden up here. You've got Gotland in this body of water that connects St. Petersburg, all of that together, the Baltic states. Well, that body of water, if you look at the bottom right, the southeast of it, you're going to see this little plot of land called Kaliningrad. And I actually hadn't looked up the history, but I finally did the other day. Kaliningrad is land that I guess was stolen. Well, it must have been stolen from Poland, I'm assuming, or Germany, depending, where the borders were back then. But it was stolen after World War II. The Russians stole it, and it's now part of Russia, even though it's isolated right in the middle there. Well, the concern is, and the Russians have talked about this before, is that the Russians come in, they come through Belarus, their puppet state, and I'd have to look at the map again. I'd looked once. I want to say, is it a couple hundred miles max? It's not, or less than that. It's not much distance from Belarus to Kaliningrad. There is this stretch of land where you've got Poland on the bottom, you've got Lithuania on top, and a stretch of land there. And that the Russians, and it's called the Suwalki Gap. And the thought is that the Russians will invade just to take that strip of land. So they've now got a land link to their territory, Kaliningrad. But even better, and even more importantly, it cuts off the Baltic states in the north, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, from the rest of the NATO in the south, Poland, Germany, everybody else. And therefore, it sets it up so that Russia can invade and take back the three Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, in the north that they had stolen and made part of the Soviet Union. And then after the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991, they were finally free countries, very happy about being free of the Soviets. So the concern of the Suwalki Gap is the Russians come in, they steal that land, and then it's potentially a precursor to taking the north, and they've at least cut off the land supply from coming because they've grabbed that land. I didn't see anything about Russia. The problem is, again, then you do have World War III. If the Russians do that, we're at war. And I think they're nuts right now. They're in bad shape. They can't afford. I just think they're nuts. They can't afford another war. Another front in the war and going after governments where, we've given Ukraine a lot of our stuff, but it's not like we don't have more, with the planes and the artillery and everything we've got, the boats, they're out of their minds. So I just, from my perspective, I don't believe it because I just think things are so bad in Russia, or not so bad in Russia, so bad with the war right now. How the heck could they go after anything else? I just think it would be stupid of them. Then again, it's not like they fought the beginning of this war very well, right? So they could be stupid. Robert Russian economy ever recover? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll recover. It just, depends. It depends how many years, depending how badly it gets hurt. Yeah, the Hungary thing is bad. Jake from State Farm. Thoughts on Hungary supporting Russia? Urban, who's the autocrat, not a dictator, kind of wants to be a dictator though, but autocrat who runs Hungary. It's the only country in Europe or the EU. I'm trying to remember if it was Europe overall or the EU, where the rating for them was partially democratic, that they weren't a full democracy. Very bad what he's doing there. I mean, he's slowly going back to creating a dictatorship again, basically, but it's not there yet. And he's been a staunch supporter of Putin before this. He was stronger supporting NATO because his election was coming up. Now that he's won re-election, he's butting up to Putin again. So let's see what happens now that he's won re-election. I think he thought he had to at least show some strength against the Russians because, the Russians did brutally occupy Hungary for 50 years, that he had to sort of 45 years, that he did have to sort of stand up to them. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I mean, we're dealing with a very bad man in Urban, and he's a wannabe dictator. So it ain't good news. Excuse me. I didn't see that, but I pulled it up by accident. Man in Western Ukraine leaving with disabled sister. I mean, if you're in Western Ukraine, you should be able to pretty easily get across the Polish border. They should go to, I mean, again, I don't know the situation, but I'm saying if you're in Western Ukraine, typically you try to go to Poland. They're taking the most refugees, and they seem to be the most prepared from what we're hearing, So, I mean, I can't speak, obviously, because I don't know their situation, but I do know Poland has been just amazing in terms of welcoming people. So that's all I can think is the Poles would be sort of the obvious thing. So let me pull up another TikTok question. Hang on. Oh, the med kits. Yeah. So this is a good question. So the real Harpy says, how much did you raise for the med kits? So still raising. We've had a fundraiser going on for almost a week. Well, almost a week. Maybe it's been a week now. I don't remember. To get military grade emergency medical kits for Ukraine. Mostly for the soldiers, but also it could be for citizens too. But these are medical kits that are not like the kind of thing you have at home. These are medical kits for, gaping wound in your chest. Your hand is cut off. How do you stop the bleeding? I was trying to think what else. Hypothermia, being caught in the cold so long, like a special heating blanket. They've got all sorts of really almost like a trauma doctor might have this kit, right? They're around $105 to $110 on Amazon, depending on the day. The price went up a little bit. I wasn't happy. And 100% of the money I've been raising has been going to buy the kits. We've now raised, I look this morning, I think we're at $9,500. My goal was to get $10,000. We've got $9,500. I've got about $1,000 of that has not been spent yet because I'm trying to save on the wire fee. Like I pay $15 every time I wire the money to my account so I can pay for it. So I've been trying to hold on that. So I was waiting till around $1,000. It might be, we're pretty close to 1,000 being in the bank, so to speak, meaning not spent. Otherwise, we've spent around 8,200, 8,500 already on the kits. They've been sent to a charity in New York, a Ukrainian-American charity that is very credible, and they're paying to ship everything over. So, and thank you, Be Kind, for putting the link up. So, we've got 80 kits have been bought already. The extra $1,000, even if it's 110 now, that'll give us almost 9 more kits, taxes and everything else. So I'd say we probably can afford 89 kits right now. I'd love to get to 100. Anyway, we're going to keep raising the money if people keep giving because God knows they need the medical kits. I've got some friends on Twitter that want to help me do a big push on Twitter on Monday too. So I'm going to leave it up for a few more days, but if you can help, I'd appreciate it. You can find that actually via my profile too. I know Be Kind just shared it in the comments, the link, but on my TikTok profile, you'll see the web address that says beacons.ai or whatever. Click that web address. It'll bring up a page. The very top link is how to buy the medical kits. And just so you know, even though it's PayPal, it's not really PayPal, meaning you don't have to use PayPal. You can use a credit card. So anybody who's not from America, and I know you non-Americans are not big fans of PayPal, or maybe you don't use it, you can just use your credit card. You don't have to use PayPal. So yeah, that's how much we've got. So hopefully we will get even more, and I'll see about doing other fundraisers if we find anything else particular to raise. I just thought medical kits seemed like the obvious thing because it really is, you know, you're saving lives, and at the same time, it's not polemical. It's not like we're raising money for guns, which you can't raise money for anyway. I mean, we can't send weapons anyway, but I just thought this was a nice way of doing it. Let me see. Was there another question? China sent missiles to Serbia. I didn't see that. I know Serbia has been rabble-rousing. Serbia always rabble-rouses. You know, Serbia at some point needs to join the rest of Europe and just stop being Russia's lapdog. It's embarrassing. And I say this as an Orthodox Christian because they're like us, but they just have to get over the whole Russia, you know, puppet state thing. It's just embarrassing. Just looking here. Let me see another question from you with the tricky name, Tree Robitai. John, is there anything international law, NATO, loss of support from the West that would keep Ukraine from not only pushing Russia out, but going into Russia? Yeah. Now, I was reading last sip of coffee and then a little sip of water. I was reading. I didn't realize how long we were going. I'll go till 25 after the hour and then we'll stop. But I was reading something about how the Biden administration was very worried about Ukraine going into Russia. And like they did the other day, right? They hit the oil depot. Well, we assume it was them hitting the oil depot inside Russia. And they're afraid that if Ukraine uses the weapons we give them to go and bomb inside Russia, that would be a step too far for the Russians, and they would treat it as NATO is attacking them, and blah, 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 blah. And again, I'm listening to this going, oh my God, stop. Just shut up. Please shut up. You know, we just have to stop being such just lightweights about this stuff. I mean, let the Ukrainians, Russia's in Ukraine. Why can't Ukraine be in Russia? Seriously. Seriously, you know, but nonetheless, we're afraid that somehow ups the ante somehow. And it would make, but I think it ups the ante only because we're saying it ups the ante, because we're saying, oh, we're afraid that would be really bad. Well, then it means if Russia does it, if Ukraine does it, even America said that's really bad. So anyway, yeah, but I will bet you that we are sending them these weapons and things, but we're telling them you cannot use these weapons inside Russia. And maybe we're saying in general, you can't do any attacks inside Russia. We might be telling them that too. But I will bet you we're putting pressure on them privately to try to stop them from doing attacks in Russia. And honestly, they should at least be doing attacks across the border to go after the logistics, which is basically, you know, Russia's resupply of its troops, like they did. Remember that famous 40-mile long convoy? Hello, Sweden. That famous 40-mile long convoy that the Russians had in northern Ukraine, and the Ukrainians just stopped it. And that was the end of that convoy. That really hurt the Russian troops in the north and helped, you know, their demise. So that's the same kind of thing the Ukrainians want to do in the east. They may need to hit inside Russia to stop these convoys. So, you know, I can, Stephen. That's funny, Stephen. By crypto to avoid the wire fees. You know, yeah, the problem is there's a number of problems because I actually do a lot of stuff with crypto. Transferring the money to my crypto account is a pain right there, and I get charged a fee for it, first of all, unless I let it transfer for, you know, a week or whatever the hell it is. Some of the crypto accounts I've got, you can't withdraw money until it's been there for 10 days. That's one of the problems I've had or 5 days or 10 days, I forget. You still pay a fee, although it's less. I forgot, I think it's XLM you can use or something where it's cheaper. But also, I worry that it just looks skeezy. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be as transparent as possible about this and make sure that I can show people that all the money that came in, 100% got spent on these things. I feel like putting it into crypto and sending crypto around it looks nefarious. It looks guilty. So I haven't been doing it. It's been easier just to do the $15. And by the way, I pay the $15 and guess what? It's very clear that the money went from this account to that account because it's not crypto. So there's an obvious track record if I'm ever going to prove it. Otherwise, you know, I get audited by the IRS and they go, well, I put it into crypto, but trust me. I hear you. It's just not worth doing it yet. For transparency's sake, I'd rather do it this way. And it costs $15, but you know, I've been waiting until we get a bunch of a bunch of money together. I think maybe it's been $45 out of 10,000 that we spent on fees so far. So it's not, it's not that significant, but I'm with you. It's just, it's true. Oh, thank you. Burka donated. Thank you. Let me look for one last little question. Harvey, I love you, but since you've already had questions, I'm going to see if anybody else has got something here. Well, let me go to one more TikTok then. I'll do one final TikTok question, and then, guys, we'll be done, and we'll just hang out for a little bit, and then I'll go back to my taxes. I don't want to do my taxes again. I'm so tired of doing my taxes. I did start them yesterday for a couple hours. I'm going to do more today. Why is Russia and Belarus meeting in the Far East? Who the heck knows? I know what you mean. I saw that this morning, and I was like, what are you doing? I don't know. I don't think there's any. I mean, Belarus is a puppet state anyway, so I don't really think what the idea is. There haven't really been many cyber attacks. I mean, Shella asked about cyber attacks against the U.S. We do know there was some bot network or whatever. I'm not really up on it, but I know the U.S. had thwarted it, which is good. But we haven't seen Russia, and actually some of the experts have been very surprised to see that the Russians haven't done cyber attacks. They thought they would at this point already against us. The med kits are so expensive because they are military grade. They are not the kind of things you would buy for your kid hurting themselves at home. They're the kind of thing you would buy for your kid if your kid were playing with an artillery shell and blew a hole in their chest. Then you'd want this kind of medical kit. But since that never happens, well, shouldn't ever happen, that's why they're expensive. Yeah. No, I think I was looking back in history. The price probably should be $75. But whether it was because of the war or COVID or whatever, the prices are up to 100, 105 now, or a little more. Because I was looking back at the history, but that's how much it costs for a high-grade trauma kit. These are trauma kits. These are not iodine. These are literally, how do you stop bleeding in an open wound from shrapnel? How do you stop the bleeding immediately so the person doesn't die? You take this chemical in the kit and you pour it on. That's why they're expensive. All right. I said that was the last, but I lied. One more last. Oh, there's a lot. I'll do Bonnie's question. Bonnie Lee, are there still civilians trapped in Mariupol? Oh, yeah. There's over 100,000 civilians still trapped in Mariupol. Mariupol is the Ukrainian city, southeast, strategically located because one of the things Russia's trying to do is grab the land in the east. They've already grabbed land in the south, in Crimea, which is the peninsula going south into the sea. And they want to grab the land in between so they can connect the eastern territories they're trying to steal to Crimea that they've already stolen. They need this land connecting them, right? Because they can resupply it. They can do everything. So Mariupol is right in the middle there. It's very strategic, very important. They've been trying to get it now for 6 weeks or something crazy, and they still haven't been able to get it. The Ukrainians are still fighting. The Ukrainians are even getting weapons in there, which is crazy too. They've been able to resupply their troops, which is surprising because if the Russians were better at their military, they would be able to surround Mariupol and stop supplies from getting in, but they aren't. What they have been very effective at, however, is stopping Ukrainians from leaving and stopping humanitarian aid from getting in because they're literally trying to starve the population and not letting them leave. Mariupol's actually one of the places too where a lot of the citizens have been, in essence, kidnapped and forced to go to Russia. Thank you for that, Ashley. So very bad. But yeah, there's over 100,000 civilians still trapped there, and they're in very bad shape. So, all right, guys, that's it. We will hang for another 15 minutes or so, maybe, but no more questions. Well, I mean, unless they're about my dog or something. And I don't mind getting more of the hats. That's always allowed. But yeah, let's hang out, and I will put my glasses on so I can at least see what you guys are writing a little bit better on TikTok. But anyway, yeah, we're hanging now. We're hanging now. Hopefully there's not any more questions in there that I missed. Was there? Nope. Up. Burka. Okay, good. Yay! Sasha is asleep in her bed on the opposite side of me right now. She's about 6 feet that way in her little bed under the desk. So she's resting. I'm going to go and, I don't know, I think it's, oh my God, it's so cold. It's funny. It looks like it's a gorgeous day, but it's 47 degrees, which is ridiculous. I do like grilled cheese sandwiches. I actually did something the other day I normally don't do. I made some bacon and put it in my grilled cheese sandwich. I forgot how good that is. Oh my God. That was so good. Oh, man. Sasha is a Yorkie Bichon, so like a Yorkie poo. My YouTube is John Aravosis DC. I mean, honestly, if you put YouTube Aravosis, it should come up. My last name, you see it as my TikTok handle or my any of my handles on these accounts, Aravosis. Just thank you for the origami, Ashley. But you can Google YouTube Aravosis and you'll find it. But the account is John Aravosis DC, John with an H, DC as in District of Columbia. So let me look here and see who's being evil. Somebody being evil. Okay, yeah, I'm just checking here. Sasha, yes, I put up a video of Sasha and the turtles the other day on TikTok. How did Sasha make friends with the turtle? She also needs a carrot for not barking the whole show. I know. I was walking her on Halloween a couple years ago, and somebody in the park had two turtles that they brought. They're two turtles they brought to the park, and Sasha saw them, and I don't know why, but somehow, I think what happened was she was maybe trying to pull towards them, and I pulled her back, and the guy said, "No, it's okay. She can check them out." My last name is Greek. Both of my parents are. My mom was born in Greece. My dad's parents immigrated from Greece, so all of my grandparents are from Greece as well. But yeah, so we saw the guy said, "Oh, it's okay. She can say hi," and I was like, "Okay, why not?" Sasha is notoriously nice with animals. The only animals she doesn't like are squirrels. She hates the squirrels. Probably wouldn't like rats, but I try not to get her near rats. She loves cats. Thank you for speaking of dogs. Thank you for the dog on TikTok. She loves cats. Oh my God. She gets so, cats in particular, she sees a cat and she just kind of holds back and her tail goes crazy. She gets so excited. It's the craziest thing. It's just the craziest thing. Yo aprendí español, bueno, en la escuela, 12 años en la escuela, secundaria, primaria, en 4 años en la universidad, y basta, hablo español. Somebody asked how I know Spanish. But anyway, it was very cute. So she went around and that's why I left the whole video because it was funny. For 2.5 minutes, you just saw her circling and getting closer. She was very curious, but something about the turtle, again, the videos on TikTok anybody wants to see, probably put it up yesterday. Something about the turtles just really freaked her out. She was and like they'd move and then she was like, whoa. Because I think she was like, actually, first of all, being a dog, she probably can smell that they're alive. Like she can smell it's a thing. You know, it's not just a rock. And then it moved, which just confirmed that the crazy rock was alive. Really funny. Dogs are funny around things that they aren't familiar with, which is why they also can become afraid of things. But yeah, she wasn't familiar with what a turtle was, and it was just fascinating. Yeah. But like I said, cats. Actually, I have video of her first cat she ever met too. I think it's on if you go back in my YouTubes to the beginning, you'll see a bunch of videos of Sasha when she was a puppy. And there's one of her meeting a cat at a pet store. It was great. Because again, she was sort of holding back going, what is this? And the cat couldn't have cared less. I've got her on one of those long leashes. So she's maybe 15 feet away from me and the cat was in between because she was backing up. So I let her back up. The cat's in between and the cat literally grabs the leash and puts her paw down on Sasha's leash so Sasha can't get away. I'm like, damn, that's a smart cat. That was scary. But yeah, anyway, enough about Sasha. Maybe not enough about Sasha, but it's very funny. She really likes that. God, how did I get into my career? Complicated. I always was into international things. So like, I think my family my mom being from Greece, my grandparents being from Greece, I had to study Greek from an early age. You know, my one grandmother didn't really speak English. The other did. The grandfather, same thing. Well, my one grandfather spoke to us in Greece. I didn't know until after I was older. My mom goes, oh, he speaks English. He's just wants you to speak Greek. I was like, okay. But that made me very interested in languages. So I ended up taking Spanish. In high school, we had to pick a language in 5th grade, which would be maybe 10 years old in my high school, even though it was a public school. In America, public means government. It was a public school. They had us take a foreign language requirement. So I started Spanish. So I've always stuck with that. And anyway, but I just always liked international affairs. And then I was in college and decided to go study abroad in Paris, even though I hadn't studied French yet. I always wanted to learn French. I thought Paris would be interesting. And so I went to France. So then I came back. Anyway, I went to Georgetown for law school. At Georgetown, I mean, everything was serendipity. I met some students that were doing a joint degree program, like the law degree and a master's in foreign service, which was international public policy. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I looked into how to do it, and you needed like economics. So I did economics for a year to catch up. Anyway, then I did that, and that opened up a whole other world because this was a program of people from all over the world who come to DC, to Georgetown, to study international affairs. And that then I was able to get one summer, I actually pissed off the people at Georgetown. It wasn't my fault. I was able to get 2 internships, and I took both of them. One, my first internship was with a large multinational called the Lyonnaise des Eaux, one of the big French company to this day, in Paris. So I went for 2 months to work for the group in Paris. And I kid you not, I was done with them on Friday. And Sunday morning or Saturday night, maybe, I left Paris, flew to JFK Airport in New York City, sat in the airport for 10 hours layover. I thought I was going to die. And I had so many people trying to convert me to Jesus. It was crazy. 10 hours in the airport. I was just going to die. And then had an overnight flight to Buenos Aires, Argentina, where I was then doing an internship with the U.S. Embassy for 2 months. So I split my summer between Paris and Argentina, which was amazing. Anyway, I don't go through the rest of it, but I mean, I've always been very open to looking for these new opportunities and stuff, and each one just kind of built on another. You know, I graduated, I went to work on Capitol Hill for a U.S. senator doing international affairs. I left there and went to the World Bank for a year, then worked for a big U.S. nonprofit at the I'm going to stop with this. At the big U.S. nonprofit, this is 1995, I discovered the internet and went, oh my God, this could be so cool for politics, connecting people worldwide. So they let me do that. But this was 1995, which was a big deal. Back then, I mean, the internet was very new, and this was kind of a crazy idea, using the internet to connect people for politics and create like email lists of people and email newsletters. And I started doing that, and then started doing it for other organizations. And anyway, it goes on from there. But I guess I was just always open to doing new things and trying to find things that I loved and had a passion for. I can't imagine now, like if I had a kid, I can't imagine letting a 19-year-old go to France for a year. I'd be like, you're out of your mind. You're 19. I'm not letting you out of my sight, especially because I hadn't studied French. I mean, but my parents let me, God bless them. But you also had to just have kind of the backbone to do it, you know, but I was always open to doing things. So, but anyway, that's a very long way of saying, but again, my career's changed. I wrote for The Economist for a while as a stringer, you know, as a part-time writer for them. I just like always kept looking for other different things to do. So, what else we got here? Your dog will not notice a turtle until you point at them. That's funny. Sasha knew. She knew. You got stuck in De Gaulle. Actually, the airport in Paris is a nice airport, though. They got a lot of stores and stuff, which is nice. So depending what time of day you're there, I was there on a 4-hour layover, and I immediately went and was like, I need croissant and coffee, and then I'll be happy. And that was it. But I was like, at least I got my French croissants, which even in the airport were pretty good. So I did have a podcast. I stopped. I do, but I stopped a couple of weeks ago. We've been doing it for almost 4 years and just kind of got tired. So it's still up. I've got to figure out what we're doing about archiving it or something. Nobody knows if I have ADHD. Maybe. Don't know. It's possible. I've always been very revved up and all of that, talk fast, and who knows. I've been told I look like Anthony Bourdain. That fascinates me because I don't think so. But people say that. People say that. It's funny. Yeah, I don't know. People think he's hot, I guess, so I'll take it. But, yeah, okay. I do look like him. All right, why not? Again, I'll take it. I think he was a little tougher than I am with the tattoos and everything else, but but why not? Oh, what else, guys? Ooh, I'm tired. What else is going on? I don't like living in DC. I never really have. DC is kind of a small town. Thank you for that. Me 95. It's kind of a small town. Being from the Chicago area, much bigger city. I find DC a little more provincial too. Like it's, we're up to 750,000 or 800,000 people now in DC, but I just find it provincial. It feels kind of small to me. I don't know. And people aren't as nice here. People aren't as nice. People are way nicer in the Midwest. And that's something I really miss about the Midwest. So I've never loved DC. I went to New York for 2 years, loved New York, hated working at the UN, loved New York, hated people in offices in New York are nasty as hell. I would never want to work in New York again for that reason. They're just cutthroat. But people on the street were very nice. I did like that. So, yes, my city mug. This is my favorite. This is my Scotland mug. Scotland. I love this mug. This is a great, and of course, it's ginormous, which I love. I bought this in Scotland back in 2007. Made me very happy, and all the other Americans made fun of me until I showed them the mug on the way to the airport, and they went, "Oh my God, we've got to buy those as souvenirs." And we turned the bus around and went to Starbucks to buy souvenirs because it's such a cool mug. And that is a litter box because Sasha, I've got a litter box down there. My sister was able to train Sasha to use the litter box. Yay, Scotland! Was able to train Sasha to use the litter box. So, but Sasha, being the very intelligent, crafty dog she is, she only, uses the litter box when it's raining. Otherwise, even if it's 4 a.m, she demands I take her outside if she's got to pee. Even though there's the litter box, she only does it when, if it's raining. So, God bless her. I've even considered having like a squirt bottle near the door. So like when she thinks I'm making her take her outside, squirt some water on her head and go, "Oh my God, rain!" And then take her to the litter box. But I've never done that because I'm too nice of a dog. ¿Qué país sería el más seguro para vivir? Not sure what you mean. ¿Más seguro en qué sentido? Most safe? I don't know. Europe is safer than America. I mean, in terms of crime, Europe is safer than America. That's for sure. We've always had bad crime here, even though it's gotten better over the years. Now it's getting worse again. But Europe, I mean, I remember friends of mine in France. Oh my God. I was at dinner with this English friend and her husband and their kids who are English, but most of them were born in France. So they're this neat mixture of British French. It's really interesting, the mixture. And their kids were like age 16 to maybe 23. And we're sitting around the dinner table and one of the girls is saying, she's like 21 and she's saying, "Oh yeah, my friends came back and we went out last night to so-and-so and we took a shortcut across the big park, Jardin de Luxembourg or whatever, some big park that they were like at 3 a.m. was still open or something." And I'm like, you went across a huge park in the dark at 3 a.m. in Paris? And they're like, "It's totally safe." I said, "You're kidding." Like even I wouldn't, even though I know Paris well, that Paris is relatively safe, I would never be like in the middle of a dark park at 3 a.m. I'm like, I'd be afraid of getting killed. And they said, "Wouldn't you do that in America?" I was like, "God, are you kidding? In America?" Like in Washington, D.C. I said, "Washington, D.C.?" I said, "I'm afraid once it's dark in Washington, D.C., you got to be careful." I don't walk home, not I don't, but like at midnight, walking home from my friend's house who's 6 blocks away, I've got to be careful because you could get mugged. And they all went, like they were mortified by the idea. So like, it's unfortunate, but Europe does have a lot less crime than America, sadly. Not sadly, good for you all in Europe, but kind of scary. We do have crime here. It's not good. Not good, but what do you do? All right, guys, I think I'm hitting the end of my rope now. Oh, I did start the taxes yesterday. I've got more to do today. They're not due for a week. So I'm almost, it depends. I'm sort of spreading them out. Today's a little better because I can even maybe I'll have to take Sasha out. It's just so cold. It's cold and windy out, which I do not like, but the sun's nice. So going out there wouldn't be a bad idea. But yes, I'm going to do more today. I'm taking it in slices, tranches, as we learn in international affairs, the phrase tranche, which is an English phrase that Americans only use if they're like economy educated. Actually, I heard somebody today, Gordon Brown, the former British prime minister, was on, like I said, Fareed Zakaria's show on CNN. And this one cracked me up. He was talking about subventions. Like, whoa, unless the government was providing subventions. And I was like, subventions? We don't use that. I've never heard that word used in America. It's the French word subvention, which is a subsidy. And I've never heard it used in English as subvention. And you said subvention, which means it's used in England at least. Here, maybe an economist used it. In my life, I've never heard that term used. I only knew it because of the French, but it cracked me up. It's funny sometimes. The Brits use words that even if you thank you for that on TikTok, even if you understand the word, it's a word that basically is kind of like a French word or something that we just wouldn't use here, but they use over there. And I forget, I can't think of other words, but that was a great one. Subvention. I'll just hear the word and I'll go, oh my God. Oh, is it yeah. I'm trying to, although I'd say subvention. Actually, am I right? God, maybe I'm thinking Spanish. Is it French or Spanish? Subvention? God, I hope I'm not getting it wrong in French now. Isn't it subvention or subvention in French or whatever? A subsidy? I think so. God, maybe it's I'm Spanish thinking of. I think it's both probably the same. Oh, you did catch the live. Woo! Of course, you're catching the very end of my live. So I hope you're not just arriving, puzzled noodle, because then it is French too. That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, the French and Spanish use the same word for it. Like a baguette. You are late. I'm sorry. Literally, I'm signing off like in a minute. Yes. But I'm doing actually, I'll do this first. I will say goodbye to the TikTokers because I'm told it takes a minute for you to catch up. And what I've been doing recently has been hanging up without realizing it takes you a minute. And for you guys, it's like I just hung up out of nowhere. So I'm saying goodbye right now. So you will shortly see me hang up in the middle of a sentence or something. That's because, So you guys start saying goodbye on TikTok, and then I'll know you've seen my goodbye message. And then, and the YouTubers are only about 5 seconds black. I'm saying black because I'm looking at somebody saying they were blocked for nothing. Sometimes people get blocked by accident too, because it's funny. I was talking to a woman by email, and we were talking about this because it gets confusing as to who's a troll and who isn't, And she said something like, she even said, she goes, I wrote, he's an idiot, but I meant Putin. And the moderators thought I meant you. John is an idiot. And I told her, I said, I guarantee you that's what happened because I would have thought the same thing. He's an idiot. Like, who's an idiot? So anyway, it happens. You can't always, you can only do so much with monitoring stuff. It's very difficult. But the moderators are doing God's work. Remember, the Russians are not happy with us. So a day without moderators is a day with Russians, trolls. All right, guys. All right, I'm going to hang up. I already said goodbye to the TikTokers, so I'm going to get them mid-sentence here. They know I'm going. Bye, TikTokers. All right, and YouTubers, yeah, we'll do our usual 7 p.m. Oop, I didn't tell the TikTokers. 7 p.m. Monday, we will do our usual. Okay, 7 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. That's Washington, D.C. time. All right? We will do that. So, all right, let's say goodbye, YouTubers. I know you're only 5 seconds behind, so I'm going to assume you're